Welcome to tonight's episode. I'm Kyle T. Mosley of the Black Sports Insiders as well as HBCU Legends. This show will feature two pioneers in sports media. One is a veteran, and the other is relatively new to the scene. First, Curtis Symonds, the legendary figure in sports media that has played a pivotal role in launching various broadcast channels. He collaborated with Robert Johnson to start BET, and now he's working with Byron Allen to help launch HBCU Go. Next, Hardy Pelt. He's the co founder of Urban Edge Network with Todd Brown. They have just secured a groundbreaking deal to broadcast over 200 football games for the NAIA. Both of these young men, they're great at what they do, but also they have great insights. So sit back and listen to the wisdom of Curtis Symonds and gain some understanding of the visionary of Hardy Pelt. All right, Black Sports Insiders, we are back for another season, as well as HBCU Legends. You can catch us coming up. We're going to have our new season kicking off within a week, but we have no other than, we have an annual chat with this young man because he always puts us on the spectrum of making sure that we know what we're talking about when it comes to HBCU sports, as well as media in concern as well, because he's the veteran of Black media, is none other than Mr. Curtis Symonds. What's going on, Curtis?
Hey, Kyle, it's a pleasure, man. Happy Friday, my brother. What's going on?
Same to you, and happy early Father's Day to you. I hope everything is going well with you and your family.
Thank you very much, man. They are, man. And it's just another blessed day, brother, when I can wake up and see that light. That's all I count these days,
Amen.
man.
Amen. I'm right there with you. Guys, if you don't already, go ahead and subscribe to us at Black Sports Insiders as well as at HBCU Legends on YouTube. You can also check us out at hbculegends.net on our Sports Illustrated site. Okay. And Curtis, man, HBCU Go, you guys have been very busy as of late, and I like what's going on. I know we have you picking up at least 3 new classics, and I may be missing one, but I want to talk about the Gulf Coast Challenge, the Las Vegas HBCU Classic, as well as you guys just announced today, going to have the house facing Howard up there at the New York HBCU Classic. What's going on? How you guys are getting these classics to be a part of your package nowadays at HBCU Go?
Well, I mean, Kyle, it's what we talked about earlier when we first started this conversation, man, is that we're just trying to grow the network, man. And we've been, this is going in our 4th year. We're very happy on how we've been taking our steps to move in the right direction. I mean, we first went out and locked down the conferences with the SWAC, CIAA, SIC, and we're still working on the MEAC. But those 10-year deals are now starting to begin to pay off for us in the fact that people are seeing the quality of the work we're doing, how it's really resonating in the community. And now that the conferences are starting to do new deals with ESPN, we're no longer so much a second fiddle as we started in the beginning of this game. And that started to open up doors where a lot of these classics have now seen what we're doing. They see our distribution, that we're not behind a paywall, we're free. And it's really starting to get more conversation for more people, and so we're very excited, man. I think this year will be a kickoff to our best year in our schedule, and as you mentioned, we've got some really good classics and good teams in these classics that make it a really good, attractive television, what I would say, peek at the schedule at the end of the day, So we're very excited, man. We're very excited about the schedule, and We'll hopefully be trying to release it within the next week or so, the full schedule. But as you mentioned, we've got some good classics, and the one thing I think kicks us off, not a classic, but I think it's a game that is going to be like a classic. Is we have our first game with Hampton versus at Jackson State on August 30th. I mean, that's going to be a big game. I think it's going to be a great kickoff with, the CAA Hampton coming in as going against the SWAC. So I think that's going to be a nice kickoff game. And then, you look at, we've got the Lewis Cruz Classic that we'll have showcasing Alabama A&M, and I can't remember on the top of my head.
And Jackson State.
Jackson State, right? So it's going to be another great game. And I was down last week in Mobile for the press conference on the Gulf Coast Classic, and that's going to be a big classic, October 4th. I think.
Okay, I apologize.
Yeah.
So you have the Lewis Cruz Classic,
right,
as well as the Gulf Coast Classic.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
So
yes.
really, I think you got Alabama A&M twice, and then you got
Yes.
Jackson State 3 times on your schedule. Go ahead.
Right. Exactly. And then we got, we still got the Southern Heritage, but we're showing the Southern Heritage this year on cable and not on the syndicated side. So it still will be big because that's 35 plus year where you have, Arkansas Pine Bluff against Alcorn State. That'll be a big one, And then I think the bigger one that will be, I think is going to rival the Bayou is the Las Vegas Classic in October. And the beauty for us is that, that game is October 25th before the Bayou. So we're going to be able to pick up a little steam going into November. And I think when you're looking at Jackson State against Grambling, you get the national champs from last year going against the name of all names in black college sports, Grambling. Where do you lose at the end of the day? And I forgot to mention that you said earlier, the Morehouse game in September against Howard, which will be a big game, at Met Stadium, September 20th. So we've got a good appetite, man. We've got a good appetite of games that I think it's going to put a good buzz. And when you're on the syndication side, we're now reaching 95% of television households, about 90% African. You should get some attention. We should get some attention, guy. At the end of the day, we should get some attention. So I'm very pleased. And when you finally see the full schedule, I think you're going to be very impressed with the direction that HBCU is going.
Well, Curtis, man, I think it's great. And when you talk about that Gulf Coast Classic right here, we have Jackson State going against Alabama A&M. What makes this a great one, in my opinion, you got T.C. Taylor going against Sam Shade, who's the new coach over at Alabama A&M. Yep. That is a prime time, and think about it, you're kicking off October, which is heavy football month, right?
Right.
And you got some of the bugs. You're working out some of the bugs in your football team, and you're getting right into the SWAC conference battles that's necessary. Yes. So I like this one.
Yes, I do too. And I was very impressed on a call with the press conference. I mean, they had one side of the room was Alabama A&M, the other side of the room was Jackson State. It was jam packed, man. They had one of the best press conferences I've been in my career. It was jam packed.
That's great. Now this one here, of course, Morehouse is playing in the 4th season over at the HBCU North NY Classic with Albert Williams, and I've been covering that. I covered the first one up there in New York to see my team get creamed. So but they try to hold their own up until that halftime. But Howard University, of course, with Larry Scott, and then you have Terrence Mathis, the NFL great over at Morehouse coaching over there. Talk about that one, and why is this one so important? Because those guys used to be on NBC as well as Peacock.
Well, I think, the number one thing that's important is the market. To be able to say you have the New York market, and we've got a few stations on the syndicated side that are carrying our broadcast, that really opens up a lot of doors for us. and for our advertising team to be able to run out and say, we have the New York Classic. And then, you got to look at the draw. You got Morehouse College, where you have a lot of alumni around the area. In
That's right.
New York, DMV, the whole 9 yards, going against Howard, who has alumni everywhere.
Yes, right.
So it should be a good crowd. It should definitely go. Albert has done a great job over the years in growing it. I think I got a lot of respect for him because he has a good mind on what he wants to do with the Classic. And I think that we add a little icing to the cake by, being able to put it on a national TV network like we're doing and really spreading the word. I think that it's got a lot of, it will grow a lot of attention.
I'm glad you guys bringing it to HBCU digital platforms.
Thank you.
That's what I'm glad. And I know if you have Charlie Neal up there calling that game,
and he will be
called right.
Yeah.
So,
well, you have Charlie. You got John Kelly will be there.
John will be there. All right.
Lorencia working the sidelines. So you got a good crew that know the game, live the game, and really will deliver a good product at the end of the day.
Awesome. And of course, this is the big one that you talked about. It's the inaugural. It's the first one, but it's getting a lot of buzz already because you have both of these fan bases which travel well.
Very well.
Then you have the national champs taking on a story program from Grambling with Mickey Joseph over there, TC Taylor on the other side, in one of the best stadiums in all of National Football League, Legion Stadium, man. Think about the hospitality of Las Vegas.
There you go, right there. And I think the timing is right. October is not going to be real hot out there. People, it's easy to get to. It's not a really expensive airline ticket to get from Jackson State or Grambling out of Louisiana to get there. So I think we're going to attract a nice little crowd. And, both schools will bring their bands, which will attract more. So I think they'll attract more of the Las Vegas excitement because people are going to want from Las Vegas are going to want to see that HBCU flavor. And when they bring a lot of that out there in the street and it's showing people what they have at the table, I think it's going to attract more people to come in that stadium and really support the event. So I'm looking forward to that. I think like I said, I think it has the necessary tools to really grow on the bayou down the road.
Sandra Douglas, she's the president of the Las Vegas Raiders, correct? The African American, first of her kind at that level in the National Football League. How special was it to be able to work with her on this project?
It's very special. I think the fact that Allegiant Stadium has given the keys to the car to come in there with two storybook programs, and as you said earlier, Jackson State coming off the national championship from last year, Grambling, the most prestigious name in Black college sports, teaming up for the first one in a latest field. I think it's great. And then they have, the general manager be a woman, number one, African-American woman who believes in what HBCU stands for. It's a nice flow of combinations to really make something happen on a big level.
Yeah. And I understand the tourism board was on board for this as well.
Everybody wanted to. The mayor, everybody is committed to making this a big deal for Vegas. So it's and have the honor of doing the game. I'm very, very excited to deliver a big time product at the end of the day.
Okay, awesome. Curtis, you got me excited already for football, man. We less than 90 days away, of course.
And the clock is ticking. And the clock is ticking.
It's tick, 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 and about to pop with a lot of us right now. Let's talk about what's happening with Black media right now. The assault on diversity, equity, and inclusion. Years ago, just a short time ago, there was a bidding war for Black content, and to be able to have advertisers who were interested in putting their products out front. Mm-hmm. Have you seen any of that draw away from what's happening now with the new administration in charge and the assault on DEI, or do you see it much the same at this time?
No, the landscape has definitely changed, Kyle. When the president came down on the DEI situation and started shutting down a lot of government areas that handled that, and then they transferred it into the public, and it also really affected HBCUs because, on the same point, for a minute, they took away a lot of grants, took away everything that was supporting HBCUs as a whole. And that had that dramatic effect across the board. And what we see in the media side is that, of course, companies are beginning to slow down in that area because they pull the dollars. And so a lot of dollars are now being done out of marketing, they're being done out of PR, event stuff to, supplement, coming strictly out of their sponsorship dollars, So it has an effect. We've been fortunate to begin to start cracking the egg a little bit because, most advertising agencies we're dealing with so far want to get to that Gen Z because they understand the buying power of the Gen Z. Yeah. And the fact that we can get on these campuses has made us kind of attractive in a different way that others can in order to get some business rolling, for the advertising community. So I think it's had a slow effect, but it's effective. And I think we'll battle it for a while, until Trump, finally leaves, some kind of way. But that ain't happening soon.
It's not happening anytime soon.
It ain't happening soon. So it'll be, it's something that you live with, what you're up against, and you got to get creative with these ad agencies, others, in order to sustain. So that's what we're working on every day to try to grow the business.
Yeah, I was talking to a couple of guys who are very involved with Black media, and they were saying how some of the product lines really value live sports.
Yes.
That aspect there has been really crucial for them. And some of them are moving toward the podcast side and valuing what's happening over at the podcasting.
Right.
So,
sports will never go away. Sports is just what we all lived and grew up on, so right. It's always going to be an attractive bug out there in the street, the word sports. That's not going to go away. It's just something that, on your Saturdays and Sundays, when you get off work or even the evenings, like tonight, you got the NBA Finals tonight. Everybody gonna be glued to the TV tonight. ESPN or Turner, but they're gonna be glued to the TV to see what happens in Game 4. That's gonna be the buzz of the night. So, you're not gonna go away. The good part for us is that we're niche. No one's really doing anything in this circle, and the fact that we're free and we're backed by an African-American, mogul, Byron Allen, who has really stepped out and said, I'm supporting this thing, like it or leave it, I think has a major incentive for other people to get in supporting us, as a streaming network. And I look at this year, for example, we won 5 Telly Awards in 3 years. That's pretty
Congratulations.
Big. Thank you very much. And then we were up for 2 awards in the Sports Video Group conference that they just did in Atlanta. Big production group, organization that does a lot of good stuff in the media business. And, and we're competing against the ESPN, CBS, and we got nominated. So I'm not knocking on anything other than to say we're making good strides. When people are paying attention to us and we're going against that caliber of people and we're standing on our own, that's some good stuff. When I was at ESPN, it took us forever to get there. BT took us forever to get there.
Right.
And so to say what we've accomplished in 3 years is a big thank you to my team who works tirelessly, making sure we deliver what we say we're going to deliver.
Yeah, you guys have been doing an awesome job. Especially, we talked about Charlie Neal, of course, is a big name, Laurencia Moulton, John Kelly, but also Nia Simone. You had her as one of the speakers at an event that you had in Atlanta. Is that correct?
Yeah, that was part of the sports video group conference. What they did, which was great, was they knew the people who attend. If you look at the color base, you don't see a lot of us as usual. So they did a great job of allowing us to have a half a day seminar on HBCU production, and it worked out really well. And Nina was one of our moderators for one of the panels, and she's very good, in person, and she's very good altogether.
I love her. She's a great person.
Yeah, her personality is a plus. Larencia's personality is a plus. I have a good announcing team, in my opinion, who, number one, they really believe in the product. I come from the old school, Kyle, out of BT world, where we made a lot of talent. The Ed Gordons of the world.
That's right.
Unfortunately, we just lost one of talents back in the day. Ananda, who did Teen Summer, she just passed away. But we've grown so many. And if you look at the sports side, Will Bond and all of the guys came through BT. We had Sports Reporter before Sports Reporter was even there. So, we've seen the growth, and what we're trying to do is emulate very closely what I've learned from my BT life in driving the business. The same thing I want to put in perspective for HBCU Go is grow talent. If we could try to, I got to tell them every day, I'm not mad if the ESPN comes grab you, because it shows me I've done my job. Somebody's watching.
That's right.
Somebody's watching, and you deserve it. You deserve it. So if you get the hit, don't feel bad for me, because I can always put someone in front of the camera. Look at how you can grow as an individual. That's what it's going to be. And if you got the opportunity, then hey, I respect that. I respect that wholeheartedly. But as far as what they do for me, it's incredible, because they all believe in the product. They all believe in my dream. And so they work.
That shows you're doing something right. That's how you would always tell somebody. If someone comes to recruit out my agency or off my production team, media production team, must have been doing something right in training you guys. So
I think in the Black community, Kyle, the one thing that we missed about, I was telling the young man that used to play basketball for me, we had lunch today. And I said, one thing you got to always show anytime you get into management or ownership, appreciation for the people who are around you, man, because they work night and day for you.
That's right.
I tell people all the time. People say, "Well, how are you successful, Chris?" I said, I'm not successful. It's the village, man. You gotta have a village, And the people around me, a lot of them worked with me at BT, who came with me over here to HBCU Go because they believed in my dream.
Yeah.
They said, "Look, man, I saw what you did with BT. You got a good product. I'm in." And so that's what it's all about, man, is how do you grow it at the end of the day, Kyle?
You're right. And how you grow it is very special. I was just going to segue into the fact that, like, you guys had the first all-female team, right, to do announcing. I think Lorenzo was a part of that initial team, right? And then you guys have had more of a presence with growing with Nia, and I forget the young lady who does sideline for you guys as well. She was down there Texas Southern games a couple of times.
Courtney Tate?
Must have been Courtney. I think so. Yes, it was Courtney. That's
Courtney. Mm-hmm.
With you guys expanding and picking up new games and everything across the spectrum, you added my old friend Johnny Cole to your broadcasting team as well.
Yep.
Will there be more opportunities for young people to say they would like to, if not just get into HBCU Go, try to be around it in one way, shape, or form?
Well, I think my team has done a good job of beginning to start that, but yes, we'd like to grow it. I mean, one of the things we try to do when we roll up into market, we try to get a lot of young students to be tied into the game. And so my production team has done a great job of pulling in a lot of different students in different markets every time we roll in. And students want to come back. They enjoy the time so well. They're riding my people for the next time we're coming in the area. So that's the goal of it. I mean, and when I founded this network with Clint Evans years ago. I mean, the goal was to try to have the universities begin to start creating content for the network, because you have a lot of good, smart, intelligent people, young people who are at these schools who are creating short films, other things like that, that could create a series for us that we could run. You know, it comes out of Tennessee State, it might come out of Hampton, wherever else, but students are doing that. The thing is, they're doing it in the room on the phones, and we need to transform that into content that we can put on the air, you know. And so we're hoping down the road, Kyle, that we'll be able to grow that door and see how wide we can open that door.
Yeah. Look, my little cousin is over at Morehouse, and he was nominated for an Emmy based upon his documentary around the Morehouse basketball program. And you look at what the Southern University band video production group was able to do to actually win an Emmy award, right? So, and I think it was a couple more that were nominated in specific areas. So right now, if we continue that trend, I think you guys could be able to capitalize and get some of those young people out front for more people to be aware of and see how well we are growing our talent.
I think you're right, Kyle. I think it's just that, you know, we have to basically pull it together. We got to get the help of the schools to get these kids lined up with us and begin to really network that into building a concept that they can work with. You know, so
yeah. Here's a good concept for you. I'm just going to throw this out at you. Every school that you guys go to hosting on site, approach their department, see if they can come up with a quick 2-minute clip for you guys or something to that nature.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Something that's good. Yeah,
that's a good idea. You know, yeah. I will take that to heart.
Okay. Sure. All right. Excellent. All right, Curtis. Man, you're just a wealth of knowledge, and I can always sit here and talk to you a long time, but we don't have that time right now. Talk about what's on your heart. Anything special that we need to know about HBCU Go?
I mean, the push this year for me, Kyle, is that I'd like to try to get more Gen Zs in the stadiums. I still don't understand the math when I look at PWI games and the students are breaking their necks to come in the game. And then when we're filming games on the campus, we can't get that kind of balance, you know, to get more students out to watch the games. And it shouldn't be like that, you know. And so one of my major pushes this year is to try to get a way in which we can figure out some kind of creative way, if it's an incentive or something that can help drive Gen Zs into the stadium to watch the game. You know, because one of the things I'm doing is television. So I got to have people on both sides of the fields at the end of the day. And so that's
for appearance sakes, for advertisers, right?
Right. And just in general. I mean, you want more people in the stadium. It should be. They should be coming out and supporting the schools. I don't get that.
And that's something that has been puzzling to me as well. Because when I grew up, especially when we were on campus at Morehouse, if we didn't have any money, we knew at least on Saturday we had entertainment to go to BT Harvey Stadium. Right. Or if during the basketball season, we knew at least 1 or 2 times a week we could go up to the gym and see something going on, right? And down here in Houston, what has been puzzling to me, you talk about the 4th largest city in the United States, and you have Prairie View, you have Texas Southern. You can barely get that stadium in Houston at the Shell Energy Stadium filled.
Well, I think that the tough part about that one is that, you know, number one, you have a lot of students at Texas Southern.
That's right.
And you don't have the stadium on the campus. So
but it's not too far from the stadium, Curtis. We're talking about less than 2 miles away.
You're right. And I agree. And I just think that the school has to work on with us and whoever, radio station, whatever, is figure out a way to help drive more students into the game. But that's across the board message that we've got to deliver better, because it isn't just in Houston. I've been around now too many games where always the away team, for example, is really light, and then if it's not homecoming, if it's a regular game, it's in between, depending.
So have you come up with any creative ideas thus far to present to the campus leaders or
Working
the
on
SIDs as well as
Working on
the
that
athletic directors?
Yeah, working on that this year, Kyle, to try to come up. I've got a very good campus engagement person, Shannon Henderson, who works with my son, Carrington, and we're working on that right now. I mean, my goal this year is to try to, we've got really good games, and I'm trying to have on the visitor and the home side packed up. I'm talking to the ADs, I'm talking to SIDs, home and away. We need people in the stands. Let's figure it out. How do we get there? So
I think a lot of people are missing some great games out there as well.
They are. I totally agree there. I totally agree with you on that. So, and I think that's the messaging we've got to work on. Like I'm telling my crews now, we need more fan pictures when we're doing our television stuff. Point them to the fans, show what the fans are doing, so that other fans can see it and say, damn, I need to be there. I didn't know they were having this kind of fun up in there. It ain't just a football game, it's entertainment.
Yeah, one of the things that Coach Prime was telling people is that they have to use social media more to get the messaging out to the people, right?
Yes.
Ralph Cooper here in Houston. Cooper and I were talking about this, and he brought up an interesting point to me. He said, Kyle, right now we're 90 days away from football. Who are the players over at Texas Southern? Who are the players over at PV? We don't know.
Right.
And I'm a reporter and a journalist. I'm putting the content out all the time. And I'm like, who are those guys that we need to key in on? And sometimes when you ask the coaches are very coy and
True.
But this is when we need to be promoting the names of these young people so they know who's out there. Like when we had Andrew Body here, he was the leader of the Texas Southern. Put his name out there, put his billboard out there, have something out there to get the people engaged and involved and know, wow, at least we know one person. Let's go ahead and support Andrew.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Is that that's the lack there of marketing in the Black community.
Right.
A lot of people don't think like that, and that's our headache. That we've got to do a better job of really, to your point, saying who's behind the mask and why, and we haven't done a good job of that, and to your point, you could probably walk on the campus right now and ask somebody to tell you a football player and they couldn't tell you.
I've done that. I've done that before. Yeah.
I don't know who the players are.
They don't.
And that's probably across the board of the 107. That most people don't know who's behind the helmet.
Yeah. It's unfortunate. We've got to do something to change that, Curtis.
Well, we're working on it. And, the I think we got to do a better job of the messaging out to the students. We need to work with some advertisers to create some type of incentives that maybe my executive assistant, Christine, came up. Maybe we create the Coke section for HBCU Go. Okay. And so we're giving the tickets away every game.
That's right. To some concert or event that's going to draw them to say, hey, man, we were in that section. Let's try to get there. If you get there early, how many of you guys will walk away with something in your hands? Something to that nature. Get them involved and engaged.
Right.
If you could interview them right now, tell us your top 5 players over at the school. If you can win that, something to that nature.
I'm going to try to work on with my team. Christine's working on Atlanta, but I'm going to try to create some focus groups around the country and try to get some feedback from the students on why. What do you need to do to get in there? Okay, what do you need to do?
Right.
Because we need to have butts in the seats, and you should basically be supporting your school. That's basically that's the bottom line. That's what the PWIs do.
Yeah,
I mean, they break their neck to
the
get in.
challenge we've been having with our Black schools, and let's just be honest, if you don't have people who are homegrown, and we talked about Texas Southern being more of a commuter type of situation where
Right,
kids are going in campus and right off campus as soon as the class is out. You
right,
don't have that energy that used to be a part of the campus life any
right,
longer. And that's
right.
what makes it very challenging at this time.
And then what are you doing on the Friday night? What are you doing on the Friday
They
night
go
or whatever?
somewhere else. They have
Right,
parties all over the place.
right. To get
Yeah,
people incentivized to come to the stadium,
yeah.
and like in Texas Southern, because it's a mile or 2 miles away. Last time I was there last year, I didn't see any, tailgating. I didn't see nothing out there as far as people getting excited about Texas Southern football.
And yes, and that's an interesting point, and we can talk about that a little bit more
Oh
in
yeah,
depth,
ain't no
man.
question.
But it is an issue. All right, Curtis, guys, got some great lineups, and we're going to wait in a couple of weeks. You'll have the uh, full schedule
You
for
got it.
you go out. We
You
can't
got
wait
it,
to
Kyle.
announce that for you guys. Just let us know what we can do here at HBCU Legends as well as the Black Sports Insiders to be able to help out HBCU Go.
My brother just keeps spreading the word that HC Go is coming. It's what we call, go time. It's
It's go
that time.
time.
Yeah, it's that time. Go time. All
Okay.
righty.
All right. Thank you,
All
guys.
right, Kyle.
That's Mr. Curtis Symonds, the president of HBCU Go and the legend in media. I'm Kyle T. Mosley. You guys have a great weekend. And Curtis, have a great Father's Day.
Thank you, man. Same to you, brother. Be
All right.
careful out there, man. All
And you
righty.
guys also, guys, keep the young family in prayer. Prairie View lost a young man who
Oh
used to be
no.
a part of their program. And there's been a couple of other deaths out there as well. And you mentioned Ananda. I I gotta stop. I loved everything about her when she
All the way.
was over at BET.
All the way.
Talk about her if you have just a quick sec. Her as the person.
As the person, she's genuine, man. I mean, I knew her very, very closely. And she came and rapped to me a lot. And she was a young buck just coming out of Howard when she got Teen Summit. Had a lot of energy, real cute. She
Yeah,
she and
beautiful.
she had to drive. She was good for television. She was real good. She had the personality, man. Her and Prince Tejo, they really rock and roll. Teen Summit for a while. They both were. It was a nice, combo. So it's saddening to see someone at 52 years old who had a lot of upside get taken away. But what the word on the street is: Father Time don't wait on nobody.
No, it doesn't.
He's a
It doesn't.
monster. But
Yeah.
she brought a lot to the table. I was a little blown away that the people who write the article keep trying to make it like it was an MTV thing. She got her roots from BET, and people need to understand that. She came over to MTV from BET. She didn't stay that long at MTV, but she did some omen work at BET and helped us get on the map with Teen Summit. So God bless her. I feel for her family, and she's gonna be sorely missed. But we all
Yeah.
love her.
I always thought she was going to be a lot larger than she was. I know she started
Yeah,
a family and everything else, but the stars gravitated to Ananda.
right.
And that's said a lot.
Yeah,
She had a great relationship with like Aaliyah was
yep.
a good friend of hers as well. So we're going to miss her. She's an HBCU alum and now HBCU legend, and she's gone home to the Lord. All right.
Yeah.
And Curtis, thank you for keep on seeing talent out there, developing talent, and bringing it to the forefront. And you guys are doing a great job, and you keep doing a great job as well. Okay.
Hey, Kyle, thanks very much, man, for reaching out to me. And really, thanks very much for closing it out with Ananda, man. It means a lot. Thank you very much,
Yeah,
bro.
yeah. She
Okay,
meant a
bro.
lot to so many people, especially myself. And
Yeah,
guys, I'm a prostate cancer survivor. Brian Custer is a prostate cancer survivor. We just had Jay from ESPN talking about he's
yeah,
taken some time away to be able to take care of his prostate cancer
yeah,
situation. And of course, we know women develop breast cancer so much, and they're breast cancers survivors all across the board. So
you
we
got it.
got to keep this awareness up in our Black community that we can get help. If we get the help and get checked up sooner, we could be able to kind of fight this battle against cancer in our lives and in our communities. Okay.
All right, man.
All right. Kyle T. Mosley, HBCU Legends, Black Sports Insiders, Curtis Symonds. Thank you, Curtis. Have a good
No
weekend.
problem, bro. Take care,
All right.
Kyle. Have a good
Take care.
weekend.
You too. Bye. All righty. Happy Father's Day to everybody. It's a great weekend. You can feel it. There's something special is happening in the air. We got all our fathers. We need some love too, right, Hardy?
That's right.
But look, we got a special guest with us. Hey, I talk to this cat all the time. We talk
Right.
all the time. And Hardy said, man, we never had an interview. I'm like, yeah, right. So I apologize. That's this greatness, this old age escaping my mind there. But Hardy, man, if you guys don't know who this gentleman is, he is the founder as well as the chief revenue officer, and he's the one who makes the deals for Urban Edge Network. That's Mr. Hardy Pelt. What's going on, Hardy?
Hey, thank you so much. That was just my ego talking when I said, "Hey, we never done an interview before, but we have some great conversations." we should
All the
we should be
time.
recording this. You know what I mean? That's right.
All
No,
the
thank you so
time.
much for having me. Good morning. Good morning, everybody.
Yeah, definitely. Look, Hardy, Urban Edge Network has been making news across the board for past 4 or 5 years now, and you guys have done a great job. I first met Todd several years ago after an interview I had with Byron. Todd called me up and said, you should have asked him these things.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it was good to be able to have that connection. You guys have done a fine job as far as developing the Black media space right now, especially with HBCUs. But you guys are branching out a lot further than just the content for HBCUs. And I wanted to talk about that because this is very important that people understand we cannot stay stagnant in our areas. We can be able to grow our brands, and as well as it's important to develop the niche, but we can be able to grow the brands, right, Hardy? But let's start with the story, man. Urban Edge, how did you guys get founded, and what was the thought behind developing Urban Edge Network?
Well, believe it or not, I tell people I started the company because years ago, everybody knows I think at this point, my background comes from the selling sponsorships for the NBA, Orlando Magic, Portland Trailblazers, and by the grace of God, I became the vice president of the Golden State Warriors. And my claim to fame was the team was horrible. They were winning 13, 15 games. And somehow we were building like $300 million. And people were like, who is this guy and how's he doing it? I tell everybody, I'm a man of faith. So it wasn't nothing but the Lord. So I can't take credit. But one day I'm having dinner with my buddies from ESPN. And I'm kind of outspoken. I said, hey, how come y'all don't put the HBCUs on ESPN? Like they'll put them on ESPN 2, 9, 6, whatever.
Right.
And they said, we can't. I said, what do you mean you can't? He was like, well, and because they knew me, they just talking to me. They're like, well, we can't have the elite Black athlete going to Grambling. I got to have that kid going to LSU.
Wow.
I almost spit my soup out. I was like, wait, what? You mean this is like a thing you guys are doing? That's why if you've ever noticed, catch an HBCU game on any ESPN property, it's going to look a little less quality than the next game that comes on with the predominantly white school. where all of a sudden everything looks like it's in HD.
So it's deliberate.
Yes, from what they told me, yes, and I believe it. And I believe it because remember, black people at this point, we spend almost $2 trillion in buying power, but we don't own anything. So the only way you can keep that train going, you got to keep us as the customer. So a militant brother like myself, it didn't take me very long to say, well, then I'm going to start my own network, and I'm going to assist, train, and educate these HBCUs on how the business works, not the show. I don't really
Right.
care about your content. I don't care about your football team. Great. All these buyers want is impressions and KPIs. And just so y'all know, a KPI is basically who they're trying to reach. Are they trying to reach a black man, white man? All that segmented out. And because that's all they care about, we built an apparatus for them to reach that person. And God has blessed us to not only sustain ourselves, but it's also now spread like wildfire because those that are business minded like us are saying, I want to be on that platform. Because those guys are sharing the revenue back to us. But it was created to originally assist the HBCUs because I saw what was coming in 2021 is that the business model was going to put them out of business, in my opinion.
Well, moving forward to now 2025, you guys just had a well-documented lawsuit against the Southwestern Athletic Conference. And there were some people who believed that it was going to be the end of Urban Edge Network. What's the facts behind this?
First of all, I think we're still on the gag order, so I don't know how much I can say. But
okay.
First of all, again, one thing I've also learned about us as black folk is when we hear the word lawsuit, sometimes we always think somebody did something illegal. And it's like sometimes you have to have clarity and you need a third party, in this case, a judge, to say, hey, here's what this means. So in this particular case, in a nutshell, Grambling did a deal with us. Based on the documents we had, Grambling University gave their rights for broadcasting, media, and everything else to the foundation back in 2012. That's why they run the Bayou Classic. They couldn't run all.
So the foundation is a separate entity.
That's correct. Separate entity, but as part of their charter in the state of Louisiana, they gave them the media rights. They sold those media rights to us. We pay them $1 million a year minimum. And then we share revenue on the back end with them for their rights. So basically what the judge ruled was like, UEN didn't do anything wrong. However, because Grambling didn't coordinate a broadcast schedule with the conference, the commissioner could void their $3 million they were supposed to get. And that's what the commissioner did.
Okay. All right.
The commissioner said, if either you guys come through us or you can't take this $3 million, basically.
Right. Okay. So there's a misnomer out there that it was something larger than this and that and other. And a lot of people, of course, when, like you say, when we read lawsuit, we start creating our own narratives out there. Yeah. So guys, you heard it first. It wasn't all this hoopla that you guys think it was. It was just about right of ways.
And unfortunately, we had to go through the legal piece because remember the way the bylaws are written at these HBCUs and the conferences. Remember, no one's ever paid them any attention before. They've never had to talk about broadcast rights. They've never had to talk about marketing rights. They've never had to talk about licensing rights because nobody's ever paid any attention to them. So unfortunately, the ambiguity that were in the bylaws and different things that were written needed to be straightened out. So it's just it was hey, here's the clarity piece that hey, you guys, the way they're structured now, they need to go through the conference to do what they need to do. No different than Florida State had a legality fight with the ACC to try to get out of the grant of rights that they were in the middle of for a settlement. It doesn't affect our business at all. In fact, respectfully, it saved us $3 million. Remember, we were getting ready to extend. The Grambling agreement for 5 years for $15 million. So we were giving them $3 million a year moving forward. I keep that $3 million in my pocket now, and guess who? I think you see the. Well, let's just plug it. You can imagine who's now getting that money.
Yeah, it's unfortunate in some ways because that helped the athletic department over at Grambling. But also, if you notice, they made an announcement, I think it was this week, about selling sponsorships, corporate sponsorships and things of that nature, trying to be able to raise money for that athletic department. And I hope everything goes well for Dr. Scott and those guys there.
Yeah, they didn't have to do that when they were Urban Edge Network. You never saw a if you thought there was something wrong with the relationship, you never saw an advertisement for if you want to sponsor a call here when they were with Urban Edge Network.
Okay. All right. Good. All right. Now that we got that out the way, let's talk about some good stuff there, Hardy.
Yes, sir.
Let's talk about what's happening with Urban Edge. You guys have had a very lucrative as well as a new blossoming relationship with the NAIA, as well as many of their schools within the conference as well. How did that get started?
Well, as you know, we're growing like a weed now. We have a little over 240 schools now.
Oh, okay. Hold on. Say that again.
240 schools. That's correct. We now have
240 schools, not 12 like SWAC,
not 12, not 16.
6 of the MEAC.
No, there's that's why the marketplace is going crazy. They're going. Hardy has now cornered the market, and and quite frankly, they saw what we did with the HBCU Athletic Conference, formerly the Gulf Coast Athletic Conference,
with Dr. Kiki Baker-Barnes.
Dr. Barnes, and you know, she's a wizard at this, and all she needed was some resources, and she went crazy. Once her creativity, everything just went nuts on that. They saw what we were doing, and after the first year, it was still called the Gulf Coast, the GCAC. They had their annual meeting, and I went to do a presentation and talk about progress and things of that nature. And I was laughing at Kevin D, who's the vice president of NAI, because he was there. And so, as you can imagine, you're in this room with like 100 black people, and then there's just one white guy sitting there. And I teased him. I said, "Hey, are you with the feds? Like, what are you doing here?" Like, and he's like, "Oh, I'm the vice president of the NAIA."
Yeah, he's the compliance guy. You got to make sure you guys.
That's correct. Right. We're getting watched. So anyway, he pulled me out in the hallway, and he said, "Listen, is this your app?" I said, "Yes." And he goes, "And it's free?" And I said, "Yes." And he looked bewildered, like, "How did y'all do this? Like, we put some little men in a phone or something?" And I had a brief conversation about technology and things like that. He said, "Listen, we're about to redo our deals for broadcasting. I'm gonna hit you back." He disappeared for like 8 months. All of a sudden, he pops up again, and he starts asking me some more questions, and we answered him. And then he said, "We want to do a test that summer." And this was last summer. He said, "We want to do a test. Right. I want you to broadcast a couple of games for our lacrosse championship on your platform. Let's see how it goes." And again, by the grace of God, we had like 6 advertisers immediately jump on. And I'll tell you why in a second. CDW, McDonald's, Nissan, they all jumped in real quick. And 6 months, it was like 6 weeks before the first game. And the numbers come back, and we were at the first game had about 38,000. The next game had 63,000. And I was a little disappointed because I was thinking, "Oh my God, he's going to be thinking, this is horrible." I'm thinking we're supposed to be at 500,000 or something. And I showed him the numbers. We talked about the revenue from the advertising, and he was sitting there with his mouth open the whole time. And I was like, "Hey, listen, I know it's a little low." And he goes, "Low?" He goes, "Man, we only have 1,500 people watch this thing last year."
Really?
I was like, "Really?" He said, "We made $500. We made $500 last year from the broadcast." And I went, "Oh, really?" And he goes, "Yeah." And the first thing we found is that, and it happens with our HBCUs too, when you're behind the paywall, that's the revenue of the platform you're on.
Yes, right.
We had revolutionized these pieces because and this is the beauty of Todd Brown. When people always ask me, what does Todd do? I said, Todd's like my consigliere. So
yeah.
If you
Todd's a very smart guy.
he knows his business better than anybody I've ever seen. So no matter what problem, issue, challenge I have from a selling perspective, he gives me the answer. I put it in the computer, if you will, and we go back and get it. So it didn't take me long to figure out that most of the agencies had never heard of any of the HBCUs. I ain't talking about 1963. I ain't talking about when we started in 2021, they had never heard of the young lady who was the CIO. Now, I wouldn't lie. I'm saying this in public space.
Right.
The chief investment officer at Dentsu had never heard of these schools.
So we're talking about one of the largest advertising agencies in the world.
Yes.
Did not know Grambling, Southern, Howard,
In fact, they asked me what was Eddie Robinson doing now, because they Googled it.
Wow.
Yeah, General Motors hadn't heard of half the school. The young lady that everybody talks about now, I think her name is Tarshina. She was trying to be the smart person on the phone call one day, and she said, "Well, why don't you do stuff with the MEAC?" And I was like, "Well, really didn't do anything with any of them but Grambling." And she goes, "Well, why don't you do something with FAMU and Cookman, because they have a good following?" I said, "Ma'am, they're in the SWAC."
They're in the SWAC.
She didn't even know it.
Wow.
She thought, because she Googled the wrong year, so they were still in the MEAC at the time. So when I heard that, that's why I went back to Dr. Barnes and said, "You need to change the name of this conference immediately."
And it was smart. It was a smart deal, transferring from the Gulf Coast Athletic Conference to HBCU Athletic Conference. A lot of people don't know this because they have some really good old storied schools like Dillard University. Fisk is a part of that group. Rust and Wiley, really good group. So that was a great move.
And most people don't know that the NAIA was the first to let HBCUs even in.
That's right, and play championship games.
You got it. So there's a rich history with the NAIA and the NCAA with regards to HBCUs. But as soon as I found that out, then we did not talk about the content. Again, people ask me, "How did you sell so much when you were at the Golden State Warriors and you guys were horrible until Steph came along?" And I said, because I never talked about the team. I only talked about how we can grow your business utilizing the marketing tools that we have at our disposal. Signage for branding, advertising for messaging, retail programs to sell more stuff. So if you're in Target, I'm going to do a Target-based situation to sell more stuff. I use the same concept with the network, because all the buyers cared about was impressions and KPIs.
And why is that important for them? Because what you're saying is, as far as impressions, that's the number of people watching or getting to see their product. Is that correct?
How many times can I get my commercial in front of you? And the standard is always, if I can get my commercial in front of Kyle 3 times, he's going to go buy it. But it's got to be something he's interested in. And the technology has gotten to the point now to where they know exactly who their customer is. They know how to find them and how to talk to them. It's just the black media companies never made the shift. So in all these years, in 30 years, I've been using the word sponsorship. I had to get in the media business, and I couldn't use that word anymore, because in their world, sponsorship means I'm going to give you some money, and I may or may not get something of value back.
Okay.
And I'll trust it with the Capital One Bowl, but I don't trust it for the Bayou Classic, because I don't know them like that. Even though you might have more people sitting in the Bayou Classic than you do at the Poncetta Bowl, but they're familiar with that, and so there's a perceived value with it. We skipped over all of that by saying, we're going to do this just like ESPN does. We're going to have impressions. You're going to be able to measure it, and you're going to get the return on investment just like everybody else. The difference is, as I told everybody, because black people spend so much money, I was then confused of saying, why aren't they throwing money at the HBCUs?
Why is that?
It's because it wasn't measured. And they didn't own anything. So, for example, it chafes me when I see an HBCU game on YouTube. Nothing wrong with YouTube, love them to death, but they don't make any money. YouTube makes the money.
They sure do.
So that's why we gave them a platform and said, we're just like YouTube. I'm going to give you your own channel, but I'm going to split the revenues back with you.
So it's a partnership deal that you have with them, saying, hey, we're revenue share. And you guys get to be able to monetize your own product and control your own product and how it's being shown. Is that correct?
That is correct. You get to control your revenue streams back in, which again, this is why Grambling was in front of everybody. So the story I always tell, which I've never told the story publicly, but the story I always tell is, I don't think most people knew that Grambling and Southern were paying NBC $2 million to be on TV for the Bayou Classic. And when the Grambling folks told us about this, of course, me and Todd almost had a conniption going, are you crazy? Why are you paying them to be on TV? Like they were the highest rated show during that day. And they've been doing it for 20
and that was mind-boggling. You're talking about the Bayou Classic, the granddaddy of all the classics out there for HBCUs.
I thought they were making this up. I was like, are you kidding me? And so we had to kind of force them to say, go back and tell them you're not paying them anymore. And they were a little nervous saying, oh my God, what if they say no? I said, trust me, they're not going to say no. And this was like, I know it all happened in a week, Kyle. So this was like on a Tuesday. On Thursday, NBC, by the way, NBC was taking this money for 20 years. And it was going to sleep at night, sleeping well. Like,
let's put this in perspective. You're saying in NBC,
yes, Universal, yes,
multi-million-dollar corporation,
yes,
taking money from the HBCUs to say, yeah, we're gonna put your little product out there on one Saturday, and
never once told them, you really should be paying us. They just took the money, and so on a Thursday they didn't hit back saying, okay, you don't have to pay the $2 million. But we're going to charge you to run the commercials that you sold yourself. And so we said back to them, no, guys, now go back to them and say, not only are we not going to pay you, tell them you want 50% of the advertising that comes in. And they're never going to do that. I said, okay, let me explain to you how this works. They have this thing called upfronts. And in their upfronts in January, they sold all the ads already.
That's right.
Let's just throw a number out there and say on a bad day, they did $25 million of advertising that's committed to them for that game. They don't give you any of it. Now, you don't even have a contract with them and they went and sold that. So now go back to them and tell them we ain't signing nothing until you give me 50% of that. Do you know them people were scared to death? They were scared to death to tell them that. That's why everybody thinks we're some militant brothers that's crazy. It's like, no, this is the business that you're in. Well, I guess I am. But
you're like public enemy.
Right. So sometimes when people are mad at me, they're not mad at me because I took something from them. They're saying, I can't let people listen to this guy. I got to go after his credibility, because if we do what he's saying, they're going to think something's wrong with me.
That's right.
Because I told them not to do that. I told them we didn't have to do that. Could you imagine all this time you've been paying $2 million, and all of a sudden, if you do what we asked you to do, you now made $12.5 million. Well, somebody's going to, in their mind, say to you, well, then where did you get what you were doing from? The difference is the NAIA embraced it all and said, we got it. They went back to ESPN last year after the second thing we did was like soccer.
Okay.
And there was about 50,000 people watching soccer, women's soccer. They immediately went back to ESPN and said, hey, guys, I know we got one more year left on this deal, but would you let us out of this deal to sign with ESPN? With UEN. And ESPN said, yes, go ahead. And the rest is
just like that.
Just like that. It didn't take them long. They realized in 15 seconds, that guy understands his business better than we do. Let him do it. And I told you, the one thing that has disappointed me just as a black man is that I've learned in the last 4 years that we as black folk do not like to take information that we did not know from another black person.
It's like I told you, it's the Uncle Ruckus theory, almost. Yeah. And it's almost as though we could believe everybody else outside of our own people, because that's what they've been kind of brainwashed. Yeah. And we have accepted that type of philosophy over the years. Yeah. It's funny you say that. I have to liken this back to, I got to take myself out of the equation, but I'm going to put myself back in it in a second. Josina Anderson, a number of years, she's covered the National Football League. Black woman, has done a great job, has great relationships with the players themselves.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You understand? And so she's an insider.
Yeah.
So we look at Ian Rappaport or Adam Schefter, or or Mart before he passed, and all these were the guys that you say, hey, they're the insiders, and we're going to listen to them if they have breaking news. Mm-hmm. Well, Josina was breaking news about what was happening with Jameis Winston and a couple of other prominent guys who are black. Mm-hmm. But you know what the pushback was? We don't believe her.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was the first thing. You're lying. Yeah. It can't be. And then all of a sudden, when Adam Schefter a few minutes later put out the report, oh, it's true.
Right, now we can run with it. Yeah.
Yes, we could do that. Yeah. It's got to be something to it.
Yeah. But
Same way with,
one of the things I love about Big Brother Byron Allen is that he kind of really opened my eyes when I hear him talk about how easily it is to discredit a black man in particular, but black people in general, particularly black men. So that's why you'll hear people say stuff like, "Oh, I heard Urban Edge didn't pay somebody," or "I heard Urban Edge," because it's like nobody will ever say, "Well, what do they owe you money for? Did you do what you were supposed to do? Was there a contract?" They don't ask that question. They just go, "Oh, I assumed they were crooks too." And I told somebody, and again, you guys know my personality by now. I don't really bite my tongue a lot. I should. But I get offended immediately when I believe someone is disrespecting black people. We can talk about racial barriers. And the one thing I love about the NAIA, I love about their administration and their commissioners is that there's high level of respect. They respect Todd's and I experience. They respect our knowledge. Quite frankly, they respect our results more than anything else.
Results, right? The bottom line.
And nobody's walking in the room saying, "Hey, since you can do this, I'll do this too." I said you have to think of if you went to the doctor tomorrow, Kyle, and you saw me sitting in there with a white coat on, with a stethoscope on, I need you to leave because I am not qualified to be a doctor. I don't care what I tell you. I don't care what it looks like. I'm not supposed to be in there, and I can't help you. And I don't mind saying, I may regret this, but I don't mind saying, I have now learned, particularly in the HBCU space, which this network was specifically built for, the leadership in most cases have no idea what they're doing. And they're going, "I'd rather kill you to be the king, to be this title, to come in here every day." And again, I'm assuming they get up in the morning, take a shower, come to work, and then they're shaking and faking all day.
Yeah.
Pretending like they know what's going on. Now, everybody got to suffer. Everybody got to stay broke until you figure out how this works. Well, this thing is changing every day.
Yeah, it is. Black media is evolving. Yeah. The dynamics outside that has been affecting media has really, especially the past several months since January, has really affected us, right? Curtis Symonds, you saw the interview I did with him.
Love Curtis.
He spoke about,
shout out to Curtis.
Yeah, real OG. You talked about
yes, sir.
Setting up Black Entertainment Network, setting up the HBCU Go for Byron as well. Yeah. He understands the dynamics, and he did admit that things have changed as far as how advertisers want to approach giving the money for Black media content. So we'll talk a little bit about that. But before we get into that part, Hardy, I just wanted to have people to look at some of the numbers and some of the deals that you guys have gone through recently. All right. Here. Talk about these numbers, man. The Baseball World Series, which you guys cashed in at the right time. Hardy. We're talking about one of the best World Series because we had LSU Shreveport that had an unbeaten streak and set the record in collegiate baseball. But you had over 2 million, almost 2.5 million viewers for that whole World Series. How important was that?
It's a paradigm shifter because of the way we built the network. Like I said, we just don't say the word sponsorship. Everything is measured, which is how we know how many people watch. It's because we're able to read this thing called a tag. Just for y'all know what a tag is. A tag, and I oversimplify this, but this is what it is. Every time you see a commercial run on our platform, a little signal kicks out, and it tells basically us and the agency that bought it that not only did the commercial run, it tells you how many people saw it. And that's important. It's because a part of the system that was set up that Black folks couldn't participate in is because they couldn't read a tag. And if you can't read a tag,
and they didn't know how to code the tags.
That's right. That's
right.
That's right. So if you can't do that, then you don't get money from the agency. So, for example, I don't talk to necessarily McDonald's all the time. I normally talk to their agency because in the sponsorship money, I always explain it this way. There's 3 pots of money. There's the sponsorship money, there's the donation money, then there's the media money. So, for example, let's use our favorite General Motors, as we kind of started all this calling them out. We'll talk about that later. But let's say General Motors had $5 million in the sponsorship money. That's the money they use to do the deal with the SWAC. Then they have a donation money. So they may give some money to the NAACP, buy a table at a thing or whatever. And there's about $2 million in that total budget. But in the media budget, which is handled by Dentsu, Kara, there's $3 billion in that budget. And black people never got that budget because they couldn't read a tag. Or at least that's the system they set up. So
and I said, well, and those advertising agencies weren't educating them.
That's correct.
How to be able to produce and read the tag, correct?
Right. That's correct. Because remember, we were more into the show. So everybody's worried about Jackson State football game. And I'm like, I don't care about the football game. I'm making money and I just happen to have a football game going. If that makes sense. You know what I'm saying? That's how we do it in the NBA. It's like, no, we making money. And oh, by the way, there's a basketball game going on too. You know what I'm saying? So that's why the timeouts in the pro game has a bunch of promotions going on during the timeout because they're generating money. That's why the signage is set the way it is. That's why the format of the game is the way it is for commercial breaks and things like that. We weren't taught that. We were taught you need to be Michael Jordan instead of saying, no, you need to be Nike to use Michael Jordan to make money. So all UEN did was say, wait a second. Let's see what happens. Since this is all about impressions and KPIs, well, what if we did do a deal with the NAIA? They got more impressions than everybody. So 2 weeks ago,
they have a lot of schools.
Then they got remember y'all see them as schools. I see them as impressions.
As impressions, you see them as opportunities
and KPIs. That's all I see when I'm talking. Right? So
okay, Hardy, I'll give you that one. Come on.
So perfect example was about 2 weeks ago. We got a buy from an agency where we would normally get where they were looking for African Americans like 18 to 49 or whatever. We got an order from on the same order, Ulta Cosmetics. What is it called? IKEA, Argento cheese, and Kool-Aid.
Kool-Aid, really? Okay.
I didn't know Kool-Aid was still marketing, by the way.
Me neither, man. But what's interesting, you said Argento.
Yes.
Right? That's mostly Midwest.
Yes.
And I know them because they used to be a client.
That's correct.
So Argento cheese,
Kool-Aid.
I'm interested. Why Kool-Aid?
Because we still got African Americans. Remember, we have 22 HBCUs that are still under our umbrella.
Okay, cool. And Ulta. Now that's a big one. And Ulta is growing by leaps and bounds, especially I think they have a specific deal with Rihanna.
That's
in
correct.
Her cosmetic line, right?
Right. And guess who has more live women's sports than anybody? Remember, we don't hide the game. When we do a deal with you, we broadcast in every game you got. So when our football schedule comes out here in a second, it's going to blow your mind. We'll be doing a little over 120 football games live. We're also going to be, I'll break it on here first. We're going to be actually unveiling a new technology, a multi-view. So you can actually watch 8 to 10 games at the same time on one screen. And as you hit each game, it'll blow it up and it'll still keep the other games going. Microsoft is going crazy, of course, with the technology at this point. So half the time they're telling me what we're doing before we're doing it.
Okay. So that's great. And this is the scientist side of me coming out right now.
Yeah.
If you do that, Hardy, and you have 8 games going on, are you also counting 8 different times impressions?
I'll probably talk to you too much. Absolutely.
Yes. All right. You start making some money. And that's why you're making money for the conference to help them out, as well as those specific schools, correct?
That's correct. So all we did was just flip the model on its head, which then gave the advertisers the opportunity. Because the shining moment for me was when they begin to say, okay, you're no longer a black media company. You're just a media company. Yeah. And so, and now, oh, by the way, I can buy stuff with you and trust you because you can read a tag. Your reporting is tight. You have live sports.
And you
don't hold
the product.
That's one thing that drove me crazy. It's like, don't do these deals where they don't show the game. We showing the game, and therefore I'm aggregating all those impressions. And now, so the buyer who bought all that stuff, she bought the KPIs based on what we have. African Americans, of course, for Kool-Aid, Argento cheese. I need all the Midwest schools that you got, and then Ulta was all the women's sports you can give me, and IKEA was that adult 25-54. So we can do it all now, and that's how you get out of it. If you notice, I tell people we never change our philosophy of what we show. We show sports. Sports is the great unifier. Sales will knock, talking about racial barriers, it knocks it all down. But because we made that pivot to the NAIA, now we got the most diverse content there is, the most diverse audience there is, and now they can buy us just like they buy everybody else without changing anything.
Okay. All right. Let's go to the next point. But the outdoor track and field, you had nearly 500,000. Yeah. You had softball where it was close to 1 million in just the softball championships. Yeah. Wow, man, that's awesome.
And I think, and we're looking for bigger things because I got to tell you, I tease them all the time, and I apologize to them all the time at the NAIA. Is that I had no idea the quality of the games were as solid as they are. In fact, I was teasing them the other day. I said, I think we need to take some of the champions and start playing the HBCUs, because if you put the demographic of an HBCU school and an NAIA school on a piece of paper, you would know which one was which. Pretty much the same enrollment.
We all look alike. Hard.
Unfortunately, yes. Yes. To a chief investment officer, you do. You look like the same person. And as you said,
but that's a good point. We all look alike. So therefore, if we have sports content, our sports content should be based upon how many people we can get watching that content. Yes. Is that correct?
That is correct. And the loyalty factor and the brand loyalty factor is off the charts for HBCUs and NAIA schools, because again, if you went to Benedictine, as I've learned, you watching Benedictine, no matter where you are. All I need to know is where can I find it now that it's free, and can I get there, and is the quality of the product. Once they saw that the quality of the product was nice, they knew where to get it. They jumped on immediately. And of course, thank God for this school called LSU Shreveport, who went on this crazy run that captured everybody. In fact, I tell the story, Kyle. I don't know if I told you the story, but we got a message from iOS saying, "Hey, I think someone's hacked your account. You've had 90,000 downloads in the last 72 hours." So I was like, "Oh!" And sure enough, they hit me back the next day and said, "No, it was false alarm. 98.8% were real people. All is well."
But you had a couple of bots out there.
We did, yeah, exactly. Yes,
the bots wanted to know too. Hey, what's going on? This urban. What is this UEN app here?
Exactly.
The bots wanted to know too, baby. Exactly. You can't discriminate against the bots. Come on.
No, they're gonna get in there somehow. That's right.
All right. Look, just recently you guys did a deal with you extended your contract with Florida Memorial University, correct?
Yeah. We consider that our Notre Dame deal, where we always want to take care of them. Most people don't know Stillman was the first ones to sign up with us. Florida Memorial was right behind them. Their leadership, their interim president, Mr. McCormick, is a businessman. Understood the business. Didn't take long. He wanted to carve out some stuff to make sure that they were always the dogs. and prospering. That's why it took so long. We had to add some stuff in once he kind of realized what was going on. Like, hey, wait a second, I want this, and this. So, but we were happy to give it to him as a thank you to them for being with us from the beginning. I always tease people. I was teasing Brendan the other day from the foundation at Grambling. I said, that hurt my feelings that we can't give you all this money, because I really wanted to show everybody of how the business model works. But we respect the decision of the commissioner, and we respect the commissioner of the judge in that case, for them to control their own destiny. And by the way, I always tell people, believe it or not, me and Commissioner McClellan actually like each other. So that's why I said I say he reminds me all the time that we know each other when he was at Prairie View, and he's like, so we are fine. He didn't do anything wrong. As far as I'm concerned, we didn't do anything wrong. But there needed to be some clarity on the relationship between the conference and their members. And that's what the judge did, was just bring some clarity to the situation.
Okay, excellent. And you guys have, of course, we announced the deal that you had with the NAIA, which is a very groundbreaking deal for you guys, as well as the Southern States Conference and the Heart of America Conference. Now, those guys are under the NAIA. Is that correct?
They are. They're on the NAIA, but they reached out to us to do their own individual deal as well. And the reason why is because of the technology. And this is one of the things I beat my tech guys up every morning when we meet, is I need to make sure all of our partners, all of our institutions are at the forefront of technology. And that's very important because, as I tell somebody today, if you ain't never got a check from WPP, if you've never gotten a check from Dentsu, if you ain't never gotten a check from Media Brands, if you ain't never gotten a check from Cara, you're not in the media business, because those are the people that buy media. And right now, everything is darn near automatic, Kyle. Right now,
Yeah.
if we're on our platform, when we went to commercial break, all they're doing is hitting the button now and filling in the blank with commercials. So we had to make
because
sure
we had to run our own commercials manually before.
That's right. At first you did. Now you don't have to do that anymore. So we had to keep us in the forefront of technology. And because we have, the industry has responded and said, these guys actually did it the way we do it. We don't have to change the way we do business. And we don't have to try to guess whether or not we're getting some return on investment, because it's measured. We can see the return on investment real time, just like CBS, just like ABC, just like ESPN.
Yeah, that's important, guys, because even me as a publisher for the content over at Sports Illustrated, I have to understand what's working, what's not working. I have to see the numbers, have to analyze the numbers. I have to be strategic in how we put certain content out there as well. A lot of people say, oh, y'all guys are just doing it for clicks. Yes.
That's right. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, why do you read?
Yeah.
Every time you read a piece of content, you're clicking to read a piece of content, guys. Remember, Hardy, you and I grew up where newspapers were they competed with one another side by side on the stands, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And it's about who had the best headlines.
They call it above the fold, they used to call it.
That's right. Who was hooking the people to say, let me put down $1. Well, growing up, it was like 25 cents or 50 cents. Then it started becoming $1, $3. I saw one paper for a Sunday paper, it was almost $5. So you got to be $5 out your mind.
Right.
But that's what it is today, right? So the business of media, especially sports media, as well as the content that's being produced, it's a business, guys. And you have to understand the business has to get funded some type of way. And it's with you engaging in that. And let's talk about the engagement. And that was the one thing that Curtis Symonds said has been a challenge, just getting people in the stands to watch football games, right? We can find them online and with apps and things of that nature. They'll look at that all day long, but engaging the people outside of that into the stadiums, why has that been a challenge in your opinion?
So I always use the phrase, the fundamentals don't change. As you know, we broadcast over 60 NBA G League games through the Texas Legends. We got an announcement coming up that's going to be crazy here next couple of weeks about that as well. But
I forgot about that. That was one of your first branches outside of just doing HBCU content, was the NBA G League deal with the Texas Legends, and it's been going very well.
God has been good. Like I said, we're about to make an announcement that's going to kill everybody in a second, because it's like and by the way, they reached out to us. The NBA reached out to us and said, "Hey, we like what you guys are doing. Regional TV is dying." They were going to use UEN basically as their canary in the coal mine to say, you got this crazy yet fundamental sounding concept. Let me see if it'll work. It sounds like it makes some sense, but it sounds a little, we ain't never seen anybody do it like that before.
And this canary is still living. Wow.
Yeah, exactly. We still rolling. So yeah, but we got an announcement coming up later this summer that's going to be bananas. But anyways, one of the things that they do so well, kind of like the Savannah Bananas, if you've ever heard of those guys.
Yeah, those guys have marketed their baseball team so well.
Well, the fundamentals don't change. You must have your community on lock. hate to use Grambling, but that's my baby. I love them. I tell you, my feelings still hurt about this whole thing. But so Grambling has the same amount of seats in their football stadium that I did at the Golden State Warriors. In fact, I think I had a little more. We were like almost 20,000. They're like 19 and some change. So I used to say all the time, you from Monroe to Shreveport, there shouldn't be a car dealer, a hairdresser, an insurance agent, an attorney that ain't locked in to Grambling. I don't care if it's $5,000. And therefore, that in community engagement now endures the community to the piece. We do it in the NBA. They do it probably best I've ever seen at the NBA G League. That's why we can have HBCU night sponsored by Urban Edge Network, and the place is overflowing. Because when they call, the community comes. That's their team. That's their piece. To me, from where I'm sitting, a lot of the HBCUs in particular, because now I've seen the predominantly white schools of the NAIA, which I promise you is the same demographic, it's the same enrollment, same everything. The only difference is literally the melanin in the skin. And I watched them like a machine. If I took you right now to a HBCU meeting, and then I take you to a predominantly white NAIA meeting, I say the same thing. All I do is change the logo on the presentation.
Really?
When you get done, you would be like, oh my God, there is a difference. Because, for example, I met with the Heart of America the Southern States SIDs. They came with an agenda for me. Here's all the ways we getting ready to promote for this year. We need the platform to blow this up. I normally have to tell them, like, here's all the tools we have. And all that. They had already done the research and said, here's how we're going to make sure we've increased your viewership 30% during football, volleyball, and soccer season. Does that make sense? So a lot of it's just we weren't taught the fundamentals because we thought it was about the show. Why do you think rappers still run around saying they're getting ripped off on their record deal? Like, dude, I thought Jay-Z fixed that 20 years ago. Yeah. None of you should be ripped off. But if you're so worried about the song and not worried about the business will still take care of you.
Well, okay. Let's go back to what you're saying. The SIDs, NAIA have a plan.
Yes.
The SIDs for, let's say, the SWAC, have they ever approached you, that group? Because I know there's a subgroup just with the SIDs. Have they ever approached you guys to?
No, and that's why I said I think part of it was, they were maybe getting some information saying, oh, those guys are crooks or whatever, instead of saying, because I was telling about, if you thought we were crooks, I promise you we had a proctoral exam from the NBA. They ain't about to do a deal with a couple of crooks. If you think they was, the NAIA was even worse than them as far as that goes. they were deep into it. But like I said, that was when I learned more kind of like we as a people sometimes have a very difficult time getting information from another person that looks like us. And it's almost like they take it as an indictment to say, hey, I told everybody I was the expert. So I can't let this guy be the expert because he looks just like me. Instead of saying, oh my God, he's been doing this for 30 years. Of course he knows more than I do. I've only been doing it for 5. And I've been doing it at this level type thing. So, but yeah, the narrative and the story is leaps and bounds. And it's about to show this network growth you're about to see is going to be because of the diversity, not in lack of it. So again, a buyer can buy HBCU. They can buy live sports, women's sports. They can buy it on OLV, connected TV, streaming, OTT. They can buy it all kinds of ways. And that's what they told me. And I say the agencies told me to my face that Black people couldn't do. That's why it's only 2 of us doing it.
You as well as HBCU Go?
Absolutely. Byron and HBCU Go. Okay. Now, we're probably a lot more tech side of it because remember, we don't really do events. That's why when people, however, I think we've put it in a place where hopefully that they're always going to eat off us and we're going to eat off them. In other words, we're forcing the majors to make a decision now. Don't play with my HBCU. I never want to see an NBC deal ever again. So if you can't do it, no problem. Me and Byron will pick it up. It don't matter. But
if you notice and I spoke to this about what's happening with Curtis Symonds. the HBCU NY Classic, which featured Morehouse as well as Howard, the past couple of years was on NBC and Peacock.
Yeah.
Now it's with HBCU Go.
That's right.
The Las Vegas Classic is picked up by HBCU Go.
Love that. Love
it. And I think altogether this season they have 5 different classics that they have picked up.
Let's take them all back.
And I think, look, the Bayou Classic, could that be teetering? You know,
I would love because I you know, it bothers my spirit when we go to upfronts and watch those networks sit up there and sell their blackness in one game. It bothers my spirit to, my Lord. Y'all have to pray. I have to go up there and pray in the spirit. So I'm like, Lord, don't make me stress about it. That bothers my spirit. So we encourage HBCU Go, and we are supporting them any way we can to push the envelope on the back end. Again, that's not really our thing. We don't really do events. We don't really do one-offs, because when I walk into the buyer, I'm looking for them to buy me for the third quarter, the fourth quarter, the first quarter. And I have so much content now, I can sell them the whole season. I can sell them a whole impression package of, minimums and things of that nature. So that's why it's just not our business model, but we support what they're doing at the same time.
All right. Gotcha. And I hate to put you on the line like this, just want your opinion.
Yes, sir.
Should the conferences, SWAC, MEAC, SIEC, CIWA, consider being more aggressive in their deals with ESPN?
Yes, absolutely. And what I mean
here's the second part to that.
Okay, go ahead.
I want you.
Yes,
so it's not out of the norm, especially seeing how the Big 12, SEC are making these major money deals for a conference that has an attractive audience and loyal audience, like you said, to be able to go back and rework the contract in the middle of the contract?
Yes. Remember, that's what the NAI did. The NAI said, hey, guys, I'm making money over here. You guys ain't paying me any money. They walked in and said, can you let us out of this deal? Because it ain't worth nothing to us. And ESPN said, yes. And again, the thing that bothers my spirit, y'all forgive me now, my brother's the bishop. So I think they've been praying over this morning, I think. But it bothers my spirit that we think, and I say we, I'm talking about black folk, I'm black too. We think the credibility and the value is being with ESPN, and we don't realize that ESPN needs you to bring value to them.
Right.
Yes. Black people spend we upped about $2 trillion in spending. So guess what happens with every marketing and every media plan in the world? They start with, how can I get the black people to buy this? I was just confused on saying, well, if that's the case, why you ain't throwing money over here? They got all the black people.
Right.
Why would? And they said, because we can't buy it. You don't have the pipe set up for me to buy it. So in other words, as it was described to me just like this from one of the chief investment officers, she said, Hardy, think about it. If you had a grocery store and it said African-American customer, that was the title of the grocery store, in neon lights, every brand is going to be excited because we buy all this stuff and we don't own nothing. Then you walk in the grocery store and ain't nothing on the shelf. That's what a buyer looks at when he looks at an HBCU, for example. I would.
Is that accurate though, Hardy? Yeah. That nothing's on the shelf.
Yeah, it is. And what I mean by that,
what should be on the shelf, in your opinion? What if you had to educate the audience? What should be on the shelf?
You should have impressions on the shelf.
You
should have
the
tags on the shelf. And the only way you know that is through tags. Then in your commercial breaks, that's when you do it. So, for example, you're going to see in our broadcast this year shoppable stuff. So, I'm probably breaking way too much information. We're about to sign with a apparel company who's now going to treat these schools, our schools, like they treat Colorado, like they treat Florida, like they treat Miami, and give them the stuff. And then people say, why they do that? Because now we're going to sell it too.
That's right.
You shouldn't be the customer.
And we should be the customer because we buy all of that stuff, right? think about it. Anthony Lawrence's collection went off the roof. I mean, when skyrocketed when Coach Prime had his stuff on.
That's correct.
Right?
That's correct.
We're talking about
and I love
a
it.
small
I love
clothier back in Baton Rouge. Go ahead.
Yeah, I've never met that gentleman, but I love his stuff. But the way my mind works is I want to make him the apparel company for the HBCU, for example. You make the uniforms, but now he's got to get access to capital so he can fund giving it to the schools. And then he's got to have a sales force that walks into the Walmart's, Targets, Finish Line, Foot Lockers, and all that, and say, now give me this space over here, and they call it the planogram. Give me this space over here just for the school of choice. Like right now, if you wanted to buy an authentic Morehouse jersey, God bless you, you can't get one. But BSN, who sold everybody else,
who's go ahead.
That's right. That's right.
You have to go through the licensees who may have them, right?
That's correct. But you can't go in the store and get one, and that's where you make your money. So we're changing that paradigm. But again, those kind of things, Kyle, is scary to certain people because they go, wait a second, I don't really understand this. The brother be talking kind of fast. He dark skinned, bright. I don't know. So now, unfortunately, your whole system your whole silo has to stay jacked up because you think something you've never heard before came from a black person instead of, and I'll even say this, I'll get in trouble, so sorry. But
it's not only that, man. I think we just got to keep educating.
Yes.
And you keep getting the message out, what's going on and what could happen and how it's to your benefit to at least hear it. And like with everything, just like how you said, advertisers say, if you see our product at least 3 times, you're going to be motivated to buy it, right?
Yeah.
So if we keep getting message out 2, 3, 4, 5 times, right, they're going to start understanding and starting to embrace it. But we've got to be able to get the message out.
Yeah, we can't be afraid of innovation. We're the best innovators they are, because I'm telling you,
definitely.
As much as it bothers me, I was telling about I have no idea how these HBCUs have survived as long as they have.
Yeah,
you have to be innovative because there's no way you could have survived because of the system that you're in.
Well, and we're at a point now because of the attack on diversity and our culture, and as well as other cultures are being affected too now. Look what's happening at Harvard and all these schools. Funding can be pulled at any second, and funding has already been pulled.
That's right.
At HBCU. So therefore, we've got to be self-sufficient and find a way to, like you said, become understand our product has power and be able to monetize it.
Yeah, the system is set up. First of all, we have to understand the system. And then people say to me a lot, man, why do you tell everybody what y'all doing? Don't you want to keep it a secret? I said, no. And they said, why not? I said, because I can tell you how to dunk a basketball. Hell, I'll show you a video. I can write it down for you and everything. And then one day I take you to the gym and say, okay, Kyle, here's the basketball. Now go dunk it. You know how to, but you actually doing it is 2 different things. And so the way
and having the hops to be able to do
it. Right. To have the ability to do it. Right. So
but a part of that hops is having the resources too, right? Go ahead.
Training. And that's what I mean by the way they set this system up. Remember, when I was meeting with General Motors, I asked her straight out. Her name is Heather. I forgot the last name now. She was head of media. I said, you mean to tell me it's never bothered you that there's only 2 of us that are publishers, i.e. we have our own network. We're the only ones writing live stuff. And black people buy 13% of your cars, and we're only 14% of the population. It ain't never bothered you that it's only 2 of us that can do this? And she
what's her response?
Then her response was, what do you mean? You know me, I kind of get a little raw. I said, well, there can only be 2 conclusions. Either you think black people are too stupid to do this, or you've set up a system where black people can't participate. And she shrugged her shoulders and said, well, we did have to change our policies to let black people participate. Yeah. So the whole industry, when we started, thought black people were just too dumb to do this. And they weren't helping you.
All right, guys, you heard it from Hardy Pelt. And Hardy.
Hopefully we won't have any legal actions against us, but we tell the truth on here.
yeah, definitely. Hardy's been in the business for a number of years, guys. And like you said, you talk about a gentleman who's built a network from ground floor, but also has been involved with sports for so long as well as sales and marketing as well. So when you hear what he's saying, you can't be skeptical.
I'm just telling you the truth.
Skeptical.
Sometimes I know people like to be political, but to me, this is not the time to be political. Because the NCAA, I think, has made it very clear. This is going to be haves and have-nots. If you ain't, God bless you.
Yeah, it's especially, hey, you know, that's why I always thought it was very interesting for the SWAC and MEAC to be able to buy into that NIL deal instead of opting out. Yeah. Because how many of us in our players, student athletes, were actually getting millions of dollars on the side? How many of those institutions were actually getting something from whomever, those marketers and advertisers, that we did not give back to those student athletes? I thought it was crazy for us not to even consider, say, hey, you know, we're not going to do it, but we're going to be participate in the NIL.
Yeah, some of that I don't even really know all the details. That's why I always tell people sometimes the commissioners have to explain stuff to me, because I'm like, okay, now common sense says X, so tell me why you're doing it this way. Is there something I'm missing in the equation? But again, the fundamentals haven't changed. If you don't have your own revenue streams that we can control tonight, remember, Black folk control culture, and I'm not saying that as a colloquialism. You need to understand what that means. They can't start a brand without buy-in from Black folk. Most people don't know Tesla is the only company that doesn't spend any marketing dollars. And it's because Black people bought so many Tesla, they made it cool for everybody. The man ain't never had to spend a nickel, ever. And Black folks still down there buying it because it was cool to do. But we have to see it as that kind of a culture. So when I walk into a buyer's office, when we do our upfronts, we are unapologetically not only Black, but we also said, you ain't got to change nothing. Because when I walked in, Kyle, and you know, I love Big Bro Byron because he's kind of he's how I am if I was a billionaire. You know, he just calls it out. So that's why I support him all the time. It's like, yo, we riding on his coattail. He sues somebody and they call us, so we love it. But they,
and he just won that. I guess it's a win. Yeah, to be able to settle that case, that $10 billion case with defamation case, right?
Well, I sent it to all the agencies immediately. Like, hey, did you see this? So it's but the point is that until we understand our economic power, and then understand, because when I walked in and said, okay, guys, I know y'all can't be this racist because y'all love Black people and you love money. So what is it? What is the problem? And when they told me, we built Urban Edge that way. So everything they said Black people couldn't do. So whenever you see a UEN symbol, you see something on UEN, I want you to know it was to prove to them that Black people can be done. That's it. That's the base. That's what gets me up every morning. And I can't wait to get up every day to kick their butt again and say, I showed you we could do that.
All right, Hardy. That's some great stuff, man. Anything else you'd like to share with everybody about Urban Edge?
Be on the lookout. We normally let Kyle break stuff early, so you over the next couple of weeks he may break some stuff. Yes, it's true. when he sends it out, because
time out. Yeah. Let's talk about that. Yeah. Breaking news, guys. When Kyle T. Mosley has some breaking news, it's credible, verifiable, and undeniable. Okay, I'm not breaking news based upon how I feel, and I'm trying to create a story. Right. I get so many people. It's a trip, Hardy, when we have breaking news, and it's not just with you guys, but outside breaking news. If it's a coaching standpoint or whatever, people look at your profile first. I mean, I want to make sure that who this boy guy. Let's make sure we know who he is.
Oh yeah. You know? No, listen. I tell people all the time. It's unfortunate, but we've been out of the system for so long that just the fact that you're in it. Remember, half the time I tell people stuff, they think something's wrong with me. They're going, that guy's got to be lying. That can't be real. And I'm going, you didn't know this? Yeah, I was telling the guy the other day, I said, think about if you walked everywhere. You were just walking everywhere. And then one day I walked up to you and said, hey, Kyle, there's this thing called a car. I'll get you the car and let you drive around. And you're going, man, you must be crazy. There ain't no such thing as a car because you ain't never seen one before. That's what I feel like sometimes when I'm talking to people, like, no, this is how the business is done. This is how they do it. And they're looking at me going, I don't believe you. I don't understand what you're saying. Remember, there's companies out there right now. Robert Smith has one that sells impressions and KPIs to HBCU audiences every day. They ain't never shown, and they ain't never shown a football, basketball game, whatever. So when people were calling themselves fighting me, I'm going, you're not understanding. I don't even need an agreement with HBCU to sell them an HBCU customer because the technology can find you where you are. I just created this originally so the HBCUs could survive and say, no, you need a revenue stream. And I need to get you in this pot of money that they never let you get into. But we got to play the rules by their rules. We got to play the game by their rules. So when I say the extra stuff, it's just when you hear Kyle say stuff, if you notice, most of our press releases don't come from us. We make the other people do it. And that's one of the reasons why, because I didn't want anybody to think we were making this up. You see the NAIA announce that. You saw the conferences announce that. You saw the NBA announce that. The stuff you see coming up, you're going to see even our technology partners, you're going to see them do it because they want everybody to say, see, look what we gave to these black folk and look how they're utilizing it. Yeah. You see what I'm saying? We play it just like that because ultimately no one wants to be racist. They don't. No one wants to be labeled a racist. Nobody wants to do discriminatory things. But we, in my opinion, have to do our part of saying, well, then I'm going to build this just like them. Okay. But because if I got to ask you to do something extra for me that you didn't have to do for them, now they go, well, then I don't want to do it.
That's good. That's a really valid point right there. All right, Hardy, man, I appreciate you. Number one, for giving us an opportunity to have this quick conversation, but also to educating the people on what's going on out there and how they can be able to be in control and understand it's not bad to control your own product. It's not bad, and it's not too far removed for you just to do certain steps in order to get it done.
I agree. And again, download the app, Urban Edge Network. It's everywhere now.
And tell everybody how they can find it. Go ahead.
Apple, Android, all your Android TVs. Roku just launched last week, and we just finalized the deal, I think, with Samsung a couple days ago. So it's going to be all the Samsung devices next. And, of course, you can always log on at urbanedgenetwork.net for all the new stuff that's coming up. All the new as the new technology is going out, we'll make sure Kyle let y'all know what's going on with that, too.
All right. Excellent. All right, Hardy. And they can find you also on Twitter as well as Instagram, correct?
Yes, the Twitter, Instagram, which I don't know. I have somebody else doing that for me. So if you see something crazy, I probably didn't post it because I don't know. So, but Nick Eaton handles most of our social media on that piece. I let the young people take care of that because I don't know what. I used to think things would go viral, nobody would repost it, and then they put something up I think it's goofy, and it goes crazy. So, yeah, check us out on social media as well, Urban Edge Network.
All right, excellent. That's Mr. Hardy Pelt, the wizard, guys, being able to control, I wouldn't say wizard, I would say the maestro, who's controlling what's out there and how we can be able to understand the power of our content as media creators, as content creators, as just being a part of the narrative that really controls this world. And I like what you said earlier. Blacks control the culture.
That's right.
The language, the style is being embraced by us and then them. If you guys don't realize that, it's always been that way for many, many, many a year. Okay.
Shout out to my people at the NAIA. We love them. NBA G League. We love you. Thank you.
All right. Don't forget, there's some great things about to hit with the NAIA and Urban Edge Network. We'll bring that information to you guys. Don't forget, also go to HBCU Legends. You can find us at hbclegends.net on Sports Illustrated. And you can check us out at HBCU Legends on YouTube, Instagram, as well as Facebook. I'm Kyle T. Mosley, and you can check me out at KTMOZE on those social media platforms as well. Hardy, I appreciate you, man.
Thank you, my friend. We love you, man. Thank you.
And as well, look, I said it at the beginning. Happy Father's Day to everybody. Hardy, happy Father's Day to you as well.
Happy Father's Day, my friend.
All right. You guys have a great one. Take care.